Hi, everyone. Welcome to Aquarist Assembled. I'm Nelson. I'm the owner of Creekwood.aquatics. Aquarist Assembled is brought to you by Creekwood Aquatics, a better class of nutrition. You can follow us on all social medias, and you can go to our website, Creekwood Aquatics, to check out our line of products. Joining me this week is an old friend, Patrick Egan. Full disclosure, I used to work for Patrick at Absolutely Fish. I was one of his maintenance techs, and I always remember him saying that I was the smartest, most attractive, and
Still to
one
this
of
day. Yeah,
one of the best aquarists he's ever worked with. I'm
that's
pretty sure I heard him
absolutely
say
true, Nelson. Thank you for having me too, man. Thank you.
that. So I'll let Patrick introduce himself.
Yeah. So obviously, my name's Patrick. Been in the aquarium hobby for, probably 30 years. Not loosely 30 years. I remember as a kid having, everybody has an aquarium when they're a kid. Me and my dad, we used to go to Aquatropics in Clifton, and I could still, and I'm sure you remember the first time you walked into a fish store, right? That smell of an aquarium store.
Oh,
It's the
yeah.
smell you can never forget. Like, it's still there. Like, when I go on vacation and I'm gone for a week or 10 days and I go back to work now, it's like that smell, like it just brings you back to that first
Yeah.
visit.
It's like a reboot. It's like a reboot.
Yeah, it's like, and it's weird because I don't smell it day to day. I can go to work tomorrow and I don't smell it. But if I'm gone for 10, 12 days and I walk in, it's like nostalgic. I smell my childhood again, which is really cool. But so I started. I had an aquarium as a kid, like a 29-gallon. Me and my dad would go to Aquatropics. I always remember having angelfish, and I guess after a while, like with most people, aquariums come and go, and we ended up breaking the aquarium down. We got rid of it, and I just I always loved animals and I always cared. I was always the kid outside lifting garbage cans, looking at all the bugs and slugs and, just weird stuff. I just like getting dirty and digging holes, and always loved nature and being outside and playing. But as I got a little older and I needed my first job, I decided, you know what, let me check out Aquatropics and see if they're hiring. But it wasn't Aquatropics anymore. It was Absolutely Fish. So I went in, I applied, and that was 20 years ago. That was back in 2003, which is pretty crazy to think about. I remember walking in, and in those days, you're a teenage kid, you're hanging out, you're smoking with your friends, and I see a bunch of guys in there that I'm like, oh, this is a perfect place for me, right? And then what do I find out? One of the kids is like the most really who I thought was like, probably gonna be like a pothead or something, was like this big religious guy and didn't smoke a day in his life. And I just thought it was a real cool place to try to work. And I remember calling 3 or 4 times, and finally I got a call back for an interview. And I had to go in with my mom because I was only like 16. And yeah, I got the job. And I started obviously where everybody starts. Where does everybody start? Freshwater, right? Everybody starts with learning about freshwater fish. And but I'm the type of person that kind of gets bored with things quickly, or I need constant like change and stimulation, and I need to like do things different. So I went from freshwater, and then I took over the stock department, and I was doing stock orders and things. So from there, at that time, I decided I was moving out on my own and I needed more money to support myself. So I left for about 10 months. And in August, Absolutely Fish always has the Midnight Madness sale, which is, you've worked them before, right? You were there for Midnight Madness.
Oh my God, it's crazy. There's lines out the door. There's tents. There's brine shrimp at the door.
Yeah.
Great time.
It was, yeah, we would have a tent outside. I mean, the cool thing about it was from 9 o'clock to midnight. You would have this like 3-4 hour stretch of like madness of, I'd say probably about 300 or 400 people lined up to try to get into the store. And for people that maybe see this, that remember, have been in or experienced it, they understand how crazy and wild it got. Not like it was like Girls Gone Wild or anything, but it was just like elbow to elbow, sweaty, just hot. Everybody's running around trying to grab the perfect fish, and people are fighting over fish because they're not making the decision in time. And somebody's like, "Oh, I wanted that one." I'm like, "All right, well, it's first come, first serve." But I
I just
decided to
remember.
come back. What's that?
Oh, I said I just remember all the people, like, because we're bagging up fish and we're sticking them in the buckets and we're sending off to the register. Then we get the next person, we've stuffed
Yeah,
their bucket full.
it was nonstop. It was nonstop. But I had done, I think, 3 of those sales prior, so I knew the routine. And I asked them. I said, "Listen, if you need some help, I'd be more than happy to come and help for the night." So I came back just for the sale, and I just missed being there so much that I asked, like, "Hey, can I come back part time?" And then I decided, for part time, I ended up coming back as a full timer. And from there, I was working with Todd in the marine system. And I started with fresh, I went to the stock. And when I left and then came back, I went to the marine. And I worked in the marine system, I think, for maybe two years or so. And again, it was at that point where you kind of need to try something different or do something a little different. So I went to the inverts and I worked with the invertebrates, and I learned all about the corals and all the critters. And that I did for a while. I think I was over in that department. And I think when you started working there, I was probably working in that department.
Yeah, that's where I always saw you hanging out by the reef stuff. As soon as the customer went for the reef section, you were right on top.
Yeah. So that's where, when you had started, that's when I was working in the inverts and working with the corals. And, it's weird though, because in those days we had, I don't know if you remember the layout, but we had like 30 longs. And I remember and how we had our reef section where we had the 90s, and we never used racks. We would always use
Yeah.
live rock, and we would place all the corals on the rock because we wanted them to look like displays, which now it's totally different. Everything's racks because the majority of the coral we sell now is all frags.
Yeah.
But I remember taking those 30 longs, and this was like in the beginning of frags, when like this was like a new thing where people weren't really doing yet. And I remember having like a little 30 long with live rock, and I would have these little corals like sitting on the rocks. It's just like so primitive, it was just not, it wouldn't work nowadays. You couldn't do it that way. But yeah, so much has changed from then. And from there, I got the opportunity to learn more and join the maintenance department. And that's, I think, when I took over as the manager in the service department. And that was back in 2015, I believe. I think that was in
So long
2015.
ago. So long
Yeah,
ago.
that was back in 2015. And yeah, we've done a lot with it. I mean, that maintenance has grown tremendously. I think right now, I've talked to other. I was speaking to somebody from Pet Product News not so long ago, and they were interviewing the store, and I had done a little interview for them, and I had mentioned we have like over 300 accounts right now. And he said, he's like, I speak to a lot of stores. He's like, I don't know if there's any stores that really handle that volume of accounts. And maybe that's me, because I have a hard time like saying no to people. When people call and they want service, like I'm like, sure, we'll get it for you, we'll get it done. Like I'm a people pleaser in that way. Whereas other companies maybe pick and choose a little bit more what they're going to take on. But it's definitely been a challenge, because we've grown almost to the point where we can't handle anymore, taking on any more business in that part.
So I remember when I was there, I think we had what, four techs and the manager?
Yes. Now
Four techs and the
we've been up to 6 technicians, and then it kind of always falls back. Right now we're at 5, and then myself. So we're up to 6, but I don't really count because I'm not really going on service calls
yeah.
anymore. when I was I mean, you probably remember me going out with you guys all the time and going, and I would hop in a van every day and I would just go with somebody and I would help out and we would just figure things out. But it was for me to learn and be exposed to all of the different aquariums. And um, I made a couple notes of actually a couple clients that you probably still remember. I'm sure you remember Tal,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. We still service her tank. And we've had issues with finding the right person for her. And that's with a lot of clients. You got to find that right match of like the personality of the
They
technician
they
and the client.
absolutely, because we're in these people's homes, and then some of them actually started to feel like family after a while. Because there was some accounts, like I had a weekly guy that I used to go service and stuff, and man, they would ask me about my life. They'll ask me about my daughter, what I was doing on vacation. I was like, oh my god, these people know me better than I know myself. But but
Yeah, I
I
mean, I've
love
had
that
a
aspect.
conversation with some people. You start, but you have to be careful too, because at the end of the day, it's a business,
Mhm,
and you do make friends, but you have to really draw a line, because
mhm.
you can't, you got to watch you don't want to cross that line of client and friend. That's why I don't really hire friends. I try to avoid hiring people that I know, just because I don't really want that. I've made a couple exceptions, but I've had some of my friends always like, "Oh, can you give me a job?" And I'm like, "Listen, man, like I'm not the same person at work that I am that you're not gonna like me." Like I went to Pat Donson's boot camp, like as you mentioned in your video. Like
Oh yeah.
we've all done boot camp there, and now I am a drill sergeant, and I have rules that I have to enforce, and we run a tight ship, and we really try to follow the right, the same formula and procedures, and we don't make exceptions. We stick to it, and we don't let people take control of what we're trying to do.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, these are the memories that I remember. So I remember when you first took over, and I had my clients. I had like what, maybe 20 or 30 clients. And I remember when I would get back, you would say, "Hey, I got a couple extra jobs. Can you handle any more?" And I'm like, "Hey man, I'm at capacity." You're like, "Oh, okay." And I come in the morning and there's two more papers into my calendar.
I mean, that's kind of what I do now still, but now my guys have 50 accounts each, and I'm still pinning it on their boards. And yeah, I mean,
But
it's funny. I was talking with Chris, Chris S, Chris,
yeah.
and
No.
I told him, I said, I feel like I've abandoned you guys, because I've taken a step back from the service department a little bit, because I've pulled myself back into the store, and we've kind of shifted some of the management roles in the store as well, where Glenn was running the invert department for a while, and now he's taken way more control over doing the stock and ordering and doing all that stuff. And so I've been running the invert department now for about a year, pretty much solely. Like, I have people in my department that are a great help. I don't It's not something I just do alone, but I'm doing all the ordering for the corals. Everybody makes fun of me because every month you come into the store, the invert section is getting like revamped, and I'm like changing something, whether it's how, yeah, I like to, they call me the tinkerer, because I'm always tinkering with something and changing something. And, it's what I like to do. I just really enjoy it. But, yeah, funny to say that I remember a memory that with Brian. He was a client of ours, Brian LaBelle.
Yes. Oh
And
yes.
you remember when we went to do his tank move and tank swap, and the thing wouldn't stop
Yes.
leaking? It was like an
Yes.
original Red Sea tank, like one of the
Yeah.
first like Red Sea reefers, and like the bulkhead seal was like defective, and
Yep.
we were there for quite some time. Yeah, that was a fun job. But
That was one of the last jobs I did with you guys.
yeah,
And
that was
I
probably close to
remember,
the end there.
yeah, I remember the hassle because like the building wouldn't let us use like their regular elevator. They wanted to use the freight elevator. It was a whole thing, and the day we got there, the freight elevator broke down, so we had to go to the regular elevator
Yeah, we'll
anyway.
use the regular elevator anyway.
They were like, "Whatever, we don't care anymore."
Yeah,
And we
yeah.
did
It
all
was
that work, and then I remember, we started to fill it, and then we saw water at the bottom of the sup, and we're like, "Oh, no, this is not great."
yeah, and we took it apart 3 times, put it back together, took it apart, and, like, couldn't get it to stop, but they ended up Red Sea did right by us. They ended up replacing the tank, and we got a new one, and we got it in place, and, yeah, I mean, it worked out. We ended up getting it, but yeah, there's for every one of those, there's 10 more, stories of, nightmares that we've all been through, whether it's, power losing power and or somebody's tank leaking and or the worst is when you sell somebody a fish and then you know tank gets sick or something and you got to deal with all that. We've all had those issues, and it's a challenge of doing maintenance. That's why I try to tell my guys, like, be mindful, be mindful of what you're bringing um, to people's homes, as far as livestock goes, because once we put our name on the tank and we're taking care of it, like, they want us to have the full responsibility, which I always tell people, like, we're here once a month. I don't know what's happening here the other 30 days of the month. So, we really try to teach our customers to be more responsible aquarists as well. And we want them to be more hands-on and learning how to, clean their protein skimmer head. And,
Yep.
the one pet peeve that I have is, when somebody has an aquarium and we clean it and then we come back the following month and there's algae covering the whole inside glass, which hasn't been touched since the last time we were there. So it's like you get, I say to them, I go, what do you got, like 3 or 4 days of like a nice clean looking aquarium, and then the tank just looks bad for the next month. Like, you got to get in there with the magnet and kind of swipe it clean. And so we try to teach customers and clients to just do some of the basic husbandry practices and be a little more responsible. Learn how to test your own water.
Yep.
Those are fundamentals. Like, if you own an aquarium, it's like I tell people, treat your aquarium like you would treat your cat or your dog. Like, you're gonna
Mhm.
walk your dog every day, right? You're gonna feed your dog and your cat every day. Treat your fish the same way you would treat them. And I think some people have a hard time grasping that. They look at an aquarium almost as just art, and it's like a
Yeah.
fixture. It does, because it doesn't really, it can interact with you, but it doesn't bark. It doesn't rub up against your leg. It doesn't constantly remind you that it's there. And so I try to get people more engaged in, like, really um, you know, learning to love their fish like they would their other animals. Funny to, or not funny, but sad to say, actually today I lost right before. I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing. It's probably a bad thing, Nelson, for your podcast. But my first fish in my reef tank died today, and I've had it since the very beginning. It was just a blue devil damsel, but out of
Oh,
nowhere, right before we started this, I saw him like inside my anemone, just like, yeah. So,
oh no.
and I go, and it's funny because I go, oh no, Tony died. And my wife is in the other room. She goes, what? And a really good friend of mine, his name is Tony. And I go,
Oh,
Tony, my fish. And she goes, don't do that. I thought you were talking about your friend. And then I looked at her and I said, well, that's why I don't like naming my fish. And she made me name the fish. And that was a thing from the beginning. Why don't you name your fish? I'm like, well, because it's like, they do have, unfortunately, a higher turnover rate than other animals. So it's like you
yeah.
gain this attachment, and and then also if you name it after your friend and it dies, you can confuse people a little bit. So that's not good either.
Well, it's hard for me because there's hundreds of fish in this house right now. But I also think it's bad luck. I think it's bad luck. Anytime I ever work somewhere where they name a fish, I stopped seeing him. I'm like, where is he?
I stopped seeing them. Yeah. So yeah, right now my reef. I'm running a 75, and it's been up for about 2 years, but it's been up for about 3 years, but it's moved twice. So like I moved from my apartment, I moved in with my girlfriend, and then we got married and we bought a house, so now it's in our house, and it's doing really well. It's stable. As I was talking, and we missed out on all that good conversation we had before we started recording. But my tank is so stable that I haven't done a water change in probably about 3 or 4 months, and I'm very unconventional. You would think that being like in this hobby for 20 years, and I do things like not by the book, like as I would tell people, but I kind of like to be like the test dummy on things, and I try like things on my tank to try to see how they work. And I think that's important if you are working in a retail setting, to have some sort of aquarium in your house that you can play
Yes.
around with. And that's really the best way that you're going to learn it. Like right now I'm dosing calcium carbonate to my reef, and I've been doing it like every night. Basically, it just clouds the whole tank up, but it's binding up all of the organics in the water. And I'm running a Red Sea reef mat, which I've converted to it's not a Red Sea tank, but I've converted it to work on a sump. And that's basically ripping out all that carbonate that has bound up all the organics. And I've also found it to like coat the rock and coat the glass with like a film of calcium,
Yeah.
which is impeding some of the other algae from growing, and kind of creating like more of a porous surface in the tank for bacteria to kind of grow on as well. So stuff that I just do, and that I'm trying to like, we're scientists, right? Like we
Yeah.
kind of, informally, but I like to play around with the tank and like try weird things and do stuff that I wouldn't recommend for one of my customers to do until I know, like, all right, I've tested this works.
Yeah, like here, there's things that I do to my tanks that I wouldn't tell people about, but like, but there are tanks, so we know how far we can push them. Like I'm always here, so I'm either at work or I come home and I have my personal tanks, and then I have the tanks that I have set up for breeding for my business. But yeah, we're always trying to push as far as we can go because we know what these tanks can take. But every tank is also an individual. There's no two tanks are exactly the same.
That's
Even
true.
at work when I'm trying to cycle my quarantine systems and I put the same amount of ammonium chloride here, ammonium chloride there, they'll all be different because it's just every tank is an individual.
Yeah,
And
I tell people, I probably said that to somebody yesterday, like, because I'm doing things in my tank. Like, I'll be honest, I use tap water for my top off. I don't
mhm,
use RO water. I'm using tap water. I haven't had any issues with it. I think people are scared of using tap water for some reason, and I don't know why. There are cases where it could be, but if you have a mature tank and your tank is stable, I think it can handle things like that.
yeah,
Um, if your tank is immature and it's a newer tank, and you don't have the bio load, and you don't have the biofilm developed and coralline algae growing, and um, yeah, you're going to struggle with things because it's like a cause and effect. Like one thing is always going to affect the other, and it's even with like some of my corals. I'll look at something, it looks amazing, and then something else in the tank looks weird. So I try to do something to fix the one that looks weird. That one then starts looking good, and then the one that looked good looks bad. So you just have to learn through trial and error, like what works. And you know what I've been learning is just trying to stick to the same routine and keep it stable. And unfortunately, I like to tinker, as everybody says. So I've 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 messed my tank up many, many times, but it's for the greater good. I've learned what doesn't work many times, and I've learned a lot of really interesting things that work for me, but like you said, might not work for you. But it's all interesting stuff. I'm fascinated by it.
You know, it takes a special type of person to have like this much like love for this hobby. And I remember when I found out that they were closing the aquarium at the restaurant I was working at, and I pretty much thought it was the end of the world. It was the end of the world. And I was sitting at home and I was talking to my friend, and he goes, "Oh, remember that place, Absolutely Fish in Clifton?" And I was like, "Dude, that's like 40 minutes away. I'm not driving out there for work."
Where did you
And
live
he's like,
then?
I was in Woodbridge. I
Oh,
was still in
that's
Woodbridge.
right.
Yeah,
Oh my.
so he's like, just go, just try it. And I said, whatever. So I drove down. I drove 40 minutes, and it's not 40. It's on the Parkway. It takes way longer. But I remember I got there and I walked through those double doors, and I immediately fell in love with the place. Immediately, like I didn't even get the application first. I went immediately to the African cichlids because cichlids are my thing,
That was your
and
thing.
they
Yep,
were
or probably still
fun.
is.
But they were phenomenal. They were beautiful. Then they had the the shell dwellers, and you had the microfish. I was seeing fish that I've never seen in my life. That just these tiny little things, but the size of a grain of rice. The brackish water, the stingrays. I was like, oh my! I've never seen a stingray in my life. But the freshwater manager, Mike's still there, right? I
He's
think I
still
spoke
there.
to him.
Yep.
Like, oh my, that guy knew every like single scientific name. Like I would mention a fish, and he's like the blah blah blah. I'm like, whatever, man. You know what I'm trying to say.
You know how many tanks we have, right? We have, I think, 130 freshwater tanks, not
Man.
including like the systems. And you could ask Mike, hey, where's your neons? Tank 34.
Oh,
Where's your
yeah.
rummy nose? Tank 65. He knows, he could just instantly blurt out where the fish are. I have 6 tanks in the invert sections. I can't do that. I like where's your green torches? I'm like, 1, 2, 3, tank 5. Like it takes me a minute to get it all, to think about it. But yeah, he's great, man. He's been there just as long as I have. We
Yeah.
actually started the same year. We actually joke about it because I left. I started before him, but then I left for those 10 months. So then when I came back, every time I'm like, yeah, I've been here longer. He's like, nah, you left for a while. So he's my senior now, but it's all in fun. Like I love Mike. I love everybody that I work with there because
Yeah.
we've
You
all
guys
been,
still have like your baby photos are on the fridge. I remember every time I'm
yeah.
putting my falafel king meal away, I see the picture of you doing something. I'm
Oh,
like,
holding a bag. Well, if you remember, we used to have a lot of goofy photos on the fridge in the office. We had, I remember, I remember Jazz, who
yeah,
was he in the maintenance department when you were there?
yes, he was. Yep.
He was. Okay. So he found like this statue of like this overweight, like naked dude holding grapes, and he like put like the Patty Clifton statue, because that's what they would call me, Patty Clifton, because like I embraced Clifton so much growing up, like in that town, and like working there, going to school there. Like it just, that's, I had a lot of pride for it. But yeah, there were so many goofy things on the fridge, but those have been taken down for years now. Like we had to get rid of the frat house mentality. And that happens. Like I'm a totally different person than I was when I was working there when I was 18 to 21. But it's funny because I see myself in so many of the young employees, and it reminds me of how Todd, or wouldn't say Glenn so much, but Todd was like the kind of the person, like he's like the general manager of the store, which he kind of like really holds it together, and he was more of the disciplinary to make sure things were getting done. And now I've taken that role, and I'm watching the kids spraying each other with a water bottle or something that I've done, and you know and it's like, don't do that. And then I'm like, man, I used to do that all the time. Like, so it's like the passing of the guard. You pass the torch down, or as you get older, your mentality changes on things a little bit, hopefully for the better. But you still have to find ways to have fun at work and try not to be too serious.
no, but I miss that place so much. Like I love my current job. I love what I'm doing now,
Hey, we're
but
hiring. Well, hey.
I miss it so much. But
Yeah, it
there's
was.
nothing like Absolutely Fish. Honestly, there's no, when I go down there, I'm also gonna see if they'll let me film a little bit. But I remember it just feeling like a really close family, and sometimes families butt heads.
Oh my
But
goodness.
I mean, at the
Yeah,
end of the day, like when we close up, when we meet in the morning, when we have the 5 minute and we have to recite the motto of the store, the mantra, all that stuff.
purpose,
Like,
mission, and vision every day.
oh my god! And then Patrick Johnson, and when I met him, he was like a rock and roll, just long dark hair. Just oh man, I remember when he interviewed me, it was so intimidating. I was like actually shaking because he would ask me a question and I would answer it, and then he would just look at me and then write it down, and then he would just look at me again, waiting for me to like revise my answer. He's like, "Are
And
you
he's like,
sure about that?"
he just, I've sat in with him on a few interviews, so I kind of now know how his brain works in those situations, and you know, you, that was also many years ago. So his philosophy has changed on that a lot. But yeah, I mean, I can't say anything anything better than Pat Donson has been my mentor for the last 20 years, and I don't know if you know this or not, but he won the Lifetime Achievement Award this year at I believe it was Super Zoo, and it's like a very prestigious award that he was able to receive for all of the work that he's done fighting for the hobby. And he's on the board of PJAC, and he's really like a pioneer in the rights for aquarium hobbyists and stores to be able to continue. And he does help fight for the rights of us to be able to keep fish and corals as pets. So he's an amazing person, and he's taught us so much, all of us so much, and we're really very grateful for that, for having him.
Getting a little teary eyed, but man, I love the man. Like I will say that like he when I first joined, like I would say I was just above average Aquarius. I was just okay. He shaped me into the Aquarius that I am today. He made me a professional in this career. I still remember when I first got hired, and he gave me the little nickel tour. He took me around, and then he says, "Okay, you don't talk to any of my customers until you're ready." He goes, "If someone asks you a question, you find one of the other employees and you listen."
Yeah, we still do it that way. We still do it that way. But yeah,
So yeah,
he's
I was bucket boy. I was like, everyone doing water changes, bucket boy, grab the buckets, throw it in the sink.
you were hired when you were hired. You
I
were
did
hired
both.
specifically for the maintenance department,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
I was
So
hired. Yeah, I was
luckily for
hired
you,
for
you
that,
didn't
and
have
then they
too much
gave
of
me
that.
Saturdays. They gave me Saturdays to work in the shop,
Yeah.
just because Patrick wanted me to be in the shop, like, and
Well,
it was
that's a rule that's
great.
a rule that we have. But it's loosely enforced now. Like, I don't work Saturdays and Sundays anymore. I've worked, I worked 6 days a week for the longest time, and now I'm off on Saturdays and Sundays, along with a few of the other maintenance technicians, because
Yeah,
we operate Monday through Friday. We don't operate the maintenance department on the weekends. But the point behind why we would do that is because we want the maintenance department to be engaged with what's happening in the store. We want them to understand the value of the customer. And, there's a lot that you could still learn by being in the store. The training, there's a lot that you learn on the road as far as
yeah,
hands-on experience. You learn how to plumb aquariums. You learn how to, it's problem solve, in real time. It's a challenge when you're trying to solve a problem when you're not in front of the aquarium, right? Customer comes into the store with a water sample and they're like, what's wrong with my tank? But when you're there, it's so much different that you can see, all right, your water's cloudy, or your filter's clogged, or, you know, your heater's not plugged in, or there's so many things that you'll notice by being on site that now when you're in the store, you can use all of those things that you've like scenarios that you've developed and you've seen. Now you can ask all those questions. And that's what I mean, I could probably solve 95 to 98% of problems a customer comes into the store with solely from being in the maintenance department and dealing with all of these different scenarios. And now I could rapid fire questions, and like I find problems that people don't even think about, you know, like you know, what's your temperature? Like when people, one of the main things is people, their corals are stressed out. Oh, my corals aren't doing well. And the first thing is people bring in a water sample. Oh, my water's testing fine. Okay, well, do a water change. They come back in a week later, everything still looks bad. But like, there's questions like, you know, what's your temperature? Something simple as that. But it's just a matter of knowing all of the things that could be going wrong with an aquarium. But being as on the road, you learn that part. Being in the store, you learn more about the products, and you learn. Funny story is, what is the product bacteria supplement that you loved the most when you worked at Absolute Fish?
Me, it was Night Out. Night Out 2. The other one was Therapy. It smelled like rotten eggs, but it was such a
What was
great probiotic.
Sal would always say to me, did you use Activate? Didn't you use Activate too? Did we have Activate then?
Activate. That's a Seachem?
No, it's Aqualife. Well, it might have been
No, I don't
Night
remember
Out,
that one.
but I remember, you know, Sal always jokes about that to this day. And I go, Sal, like, you know, show them the bacterias. I'll have him show the new maintenance recruits, like the bacterias. And he'll go, this one's the best. You know why? Because it's, and that's something that he got from you, because he would ask you like, well, why do you always pick that one? He goes, well, because if you use stability, when you pour it in, it's clear. If you use this one, you pour it in, there's, you know, because you can see like some of the clumpy bacteria inside the bottle. But yeah, it was pretty funny. We still talk about that. We still use that line sometimes with some of the product, with that product actually.
No, I love that stuff. I mean, I brought it to the place that I'm at. I'm like, we use Night Out. They bring stability. I'm like, get out of here. No, Night Out.
Well, you're using Night Out now.
Yeah, I love Night Out. But the other thing too, that Patrick Johnson, it's like the Patrick Johnson show now.
Yeah,
but
he's gonna love this when he sees it.
When it was hard to get aquarium medications, because there was a while where you couldn't get Prozi, copper, it's like those stuff was getting harder to get. Patrick Johnson was like, we need an alternative approach. So then he started bringing the herbal supplements. So there was things like what is it now? Why am I forgetting the name? I have it all over my house.
Artemis.
Yeah, and the Artemis and all that stuff. And he's like,
but there's also other ones too, like the
Rally brand.
Yeah, there's Ick Attack. I think that's I forget the brand, but we do carry it still. There's Ick Attack, and then there's, you know, those are just more herbal medications that also Fritz makes the Parashield, which is like a herbal, like it uses like essential oils and things like that to help kind of like expel and causes the slime coat of the fish to, like, you know, slough off to prevent anything from attaching. But yeah, we're doing actually right now. I don't know if you did the class. Pat's doing the Stronger Fish Healthy Aquarium class right now.
Yeah.
Where we talk about the uses of probiotic bacterias and, you know, garlic, vitamin C, HUFAs, and the benefits of doing that. I mean, I've had a lot of experience in my tank with, you know, using garlic to treat ick, or, you know, I've had ick on my hippo tang a few times, and I've used garlic soaked pellets only. I've never put medication in my reef, and it cleared it up. So I think it's more a matter of like good water quality, good nutrition, and like the fish should be able to fight disease off, you know, on their own if they're a strong fish, you know. But
Yeah, that's the philosophy we took at my the place that I'm currently at. Um, because I keep telling the guys, we quarantine animals, but a quarantine isn't like a sterilization of the entire animal. We're trying
nope.
to give them the best odds of survival. So put good food in them, give them all the vitamins and minerals, all the fatty acids they need. They will work it out themselves. And
Yep.
that philosophy has worked. We don't have ick outbreaks. We don't have none of those diseases because if you take care of your fish good from the beginning, you give them good diets, you have good husbandry practices, all that stuff is under control.
Yeah, no, I mean it's nutrition is key. I mean, I think it's getting the right foods. We actually just launched our own like flake and pellet
I
within the
saw
last
that. I
year,
saw and frozen
and
foods, and I
frozen
know that
food.
was the
Yeah,
thing he was
so
talking about for years.
yeah, and they're great foods. Like I've been using it in my tank at home. That's all I've been using. We have like a spirulina kelp flake that I fed for probably 5 6 months until the can, the can was big, so it lasted a little while. But my I noticed my hippo tang went from this to like this in like
Yeah.
6 to 8 months. Like it grew so fast. So the food it's really good. I actually had a customer in um on Thursday, and this is I'm not saying this just to try to like plug our food or anything, but he's like, yeah, I've used this brand food. He's like, you guys gave me like this little sample packet of this pellet, and he's like, my fish went ballistic for it. So that was actually we came out with like a chromo pellet, which is really really high in astaxanthin,
Yes.
which is an antioxidant, helps with coloration in the fish, and it helps with their immune system.
Yeah. But man, that I remember that was all part of the M1 or the stronger fish help the aquarium, but man, he would have us learn, the astaxanthin. I remember fish geographical locations. My guys I drive them crazy with all that. I'm like, where's that fish from?
Are you doing that stuff to them?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They hate
That's
it.
good, man.
Even when we make our gel diet, I said, what other supplements did you put in there? And they're like, what? I said, did you put a garlic in there? Did you put a vitamin C? Did you put Vitachem? I go, what other nutrients did you put in that food? Yeah, we feed the mysis, spirulina brine. I was like, why would you just feed brine shrimp? Frozen brine shrimp, spirulina, gut load them with something. Like it's just a
Yep.
shell. But I learned that all from Absolutely Fish, from Patrick Donaldson, from you guys. And I can't even thank you guys enough. Like we're going over the time
Oh, is it?
allotted, but
Are we done?
oh, we're close.
All
I'll
right.
give you time to plug Absolutely Fish, but man, like this conversation go on forever. We're definitely
Yeah.
going to continue it,
Yeah. Well,
but
listen, I mean, it was really nice to do this. When you asked me, I was gonna do it last Wednesday. We were gonna record, but I had a coral shipment that got bumped in late, and I couldn't get in time. I had to focus on getting that in and get everything put away and priced, and I wouldn't have made it in time. But yeah, man, it's nice to get to connect with people that are like-minded and talk about some of the things. And I would love to have part two, part three, part four, because we could go on forever with a lot. I mean, there's so many things that we didn't talk about. Some of the things that we're doing with our aquaculture facility, and maybe I could even try to invite. Does this
yeah.
platform, can you have multiple guests on at the same time with
Yes, I
multiple?
can. We can right now. We can have up to 6, and if I pay for it, I can have up to 10. So,
All right. Well, well, let's not go crazy, but no, but it would be cool. Maybe we could do something again, and we could talk about some of the other things, some of the projects that you're working on, and some of the stuff we're working on, some of the new ideas or some of the new methods maybe that you're working with. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things you can there. It's like a tree. There's so many branches that you can kind of go into, and we kind of touched a few, but yeah, there's a lot that we could talk about. But just to keep it short and simple, for tonight, I thank you for having me. For anybody that's in New Jersey, Nelson can tell you, Absolutely Fish is a great place to stop in at, even if you're not looking to purchase and you just want to see a lot of really cool animals and a lot of cool fish, we carry full, freshwater, saltwater. We carry coral, and it's free, and you don't have to pay. It's almost like going to an aquarium and seeing. People come to us and they say, "Wow, I saw more stuff here than I saw by going to Camden Aquarium." I mean, obviously we don't have massive shark displays, but my cat's trying to get in here.
No, but you guys have some just really cool, weird, like all the weird puffers that Mike brings in from the Amazon. There's it's just stuff that I've never seen, stuff that I never thought I would see in real life. Like I got to see there, and I got to work with.
Do you guys have garden eels by you at the zoo? Do you guys have a garden eel exhibit?
No, we don't. Yeah, because we did the potbelly seahorses. Garden eels are just tricky. They're tricky, and they're just tricky.
Why not? They're cool. We have a few at the store now, and I sold a couple, and then we had more, and they're like, we're having a lot of success with them, and I'm like, man, these things are really cool. Like watching them all like pop up out to eat, and they're just really cool. But it's just weird stuff you see sometimes. Mantis shrimp, like we brought in a couple mantis shrimp in the last week. So it's pretty cool, man.
Who's the one I really like, the big eye catalufa?
Big eye cat. That's like one of Pat's favorite fish, actually, the big eye catalupa. I don't know if we have any right now. We may, but I'm trying to think.
Who's the purple one? There was a purple one that used to live in that big show tank behind the registers.
Big purple one.
It looked like a scorpion fish.
Oh, the Rhinopius.
Yeah, that's a beautiful fish. Oh my god, I used to just stare at that thing for hours.
See, that's like one of those things though. It's like that's a fish that not a lot of people will buy. So it's like we'll bring it in just for people to see, the majority of people aren't going to really buy that type of fish because they can be a challenging fish to keep. Sometimes you have to feed them live foods, and it's not this like the hardiest of fish. But yeah, like we try to bring stuff into the store that you're not gonna, even if it's like people aren't gonna buy it. Like we want to take care of it. We want to learn how to take care of it and like be successful in it, so that and that's I think with the hobby in general is to learn as much as we can. And I've had people say like, oh, it's really messed up that these fish are being taken out of the ocean and you're keeping them in captivity. And I'd say like, but you know how much we've learned about these animals by doing that. And I think that's important, learning about the animal and being able to care for them. And there's a lot of fish that have been extinct in the wild, which are only alive through aquariums, and at some point maybe they could be reintroduced.
Well, I'll tell you what, I have two species of fish that are extinct in the wild. I have pupfish, I have Longidrosalis, and I have Veronica. And the only reason why they still exist today is because there's backyard hobbyists like me who keep them and we reproduce them, and we have a whole network that we share them so we can kind of swap genetics. But going back to that point, I mean, look at all the aquaculture you guys do. You're reducing how much you're taking from the ocean because you're reproducing these things off site. Look at all the organizations that you guys donate to. The Great Hammerhead, the Hammerhead
Project, yep.
Or the Terrapins. Like there's things that we take, but we also put back. And that is one of the lessons that I took from Absolutely Fish. And that's why, again, I started this company, Creekwood Aquatics. Remember, if you guys need live foods, check us out. Check us out at hold on. Oh my god, my plugs aren't working right now.
There you go.
But yeah, it's there it is. Finally shows up.
Your audio is getting a little choppy.
Like I'm trying to reach out to a lot of the local school districts here because I know I got a little choppy. Yeah, that happens. But yeah, I'm trying a new thing where I'm trying to reach out to some of these schools because I know they do projects with Daphnia at the end of the year. And instead of them ordering from companies across the country, like order from me, and these kids will learn, and I'll be able to, you know, give back to my community.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
Yeah.
it's been a pleasure talking to you. I can't wait to do this again.
Yeah, man. I'm looking forward to joining you again. And like I said, maybe I could bring along somebody else from the crew, maybe a familiar face, maybe somebody new that can bring something different to the conversation. But yeah, I mean, I'm available next time, and I would love to chat, man. It was a lot of fun to get on here with you.
All right. Oh, last thing. Um, it was hilarious when I was scared doing this. Like I was like, I don't even know if people are gonna watch this. I don't whatever. But I put a small post on my personal Instagram by mistake, and you liked it. You were like, go. So I was like,
I
oh,
said, "Let's
oh.
go, let's do it." Yeah, and then I saw that you posted it again. I was like, "What did he? Did he not want me to see that? Was he like, all right, no, anybody, but just not you? Like, we'll do somebody else." Yeah,
But
nice.
it was just so cool. That's why that when I saw that, I was like, I'm reaching out to him. I'm reaching out.
Hell yeah,
We're doing
man.
this.
Well,
We're
when I
gonna make
saw,
it
I said, you
happen.
know what? Like, I'd love to chat. I'm sure, it would be nice to catch up, and we could do it again because, like I said, I have a list of stuff here we didn't really talk about, and we can
We
we
didn't
can
even get
dive deep
past two
into it next time.
questions.
Yeah.
All right, man. Take care.
All right, Nelson. Thanks. Thank you, everybody. All right.
All right, bye.
Bye.